This is going to be a discussion video about the videotapes that were released in the newest patch of The Forest, which is an amazing game. I did a video about the timeline of events that I had sort of pieced together took place, because the game never fully outright tells you what happens. It's just sort of got clues and things that you sort of piece together, and that's why I liked it so much. And when I heard that the latest patch had these videotapes, I was excited. I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to explain more about the story. But instead, the videotapes focused mainly on Megan, which is Matthew Cross's daughter. Matthew Cross is the Red Man. And I thought that not only were they disappointing, they completely contradicted the information that was already previously in the game. So this is going to be a discussion about the videotapes and how they do not really add anything to the story, and they actually contradict what is already pre-established. Okay, so let's look at this. The first videotape of Megan shows her arriving in a helicopter, and in this patch they actually added a helicopter that is down in the sinkhole. So I'm not sure at what point this helicopter crashed, but this is obviously, I think, meant to imply that it's the same helicopter that Megan came in on. In the video, she's seen wearing an oxygen mask, so you can assume that she's sick at this point. The second video shows her in a wheelchair with an IV drip, I believe, so it's pretty much confirmed she is unwell. She's terminally sick or ill, and she's at Sahara in the lunchroom. The third video of Megan shows her in a wheelchair outside of the observation rooms, and Armsy breaks out, and all of the scientists are kind of fleeing, and the scientist who is actually pushing her wheelchair, you can see him running off in the background, and Armsy attacks Megan. Her wheelchair is face down, and I am assuming that we are led to believe that this is what kills her. So if these were the only videotapes that you had, you can kind of assume, okay, there's a sick girl, she was brought to the lab, and Armsy killed her, and that's why at the very end you fight her and all of that. But the fact is, the information that was in the game previously does not add up to this whatsoever. First of all, Matthew Cross had been restrained from seeing his wife. There's a restraining order from his wife Jessica that is dated in July or June, I believe. But it's basically a restraining order that prevents him from seeing Jessica and their daughter Megan. There is an email where Jessica sends Matthew a picture of Megan, and it says, here's Megan's school photo, please don't contact me again. And there's a follow-up email from Matthew. He says, if you file for divorce, you will regret it. And then lastly, the biggest clue, there is an autopsy report of Megan that says that she died from a vertical laceration to her back, and that she was found by her mother at her home, and it was a violent death. So this actually is more in alignment with how Megan appears in the game, because when you see Megan at the last fight, she has a laceration. They make it very obvious that she has that laceration in her back. And if Megan was killed by Armsy, there would be no way that her mother would have found her body dead at their house, unless Matthew Cross took her body, brought it back home, left it at Jessica's house. Jessica found the body, submitted it to an autopsy report, and then Matthew stole her body and brought it back to Sahara. That makes no sense whatsoever. There's no point in faking an autopsy report. I don't even know how Matthew got a hold of Megan to bring her to Sahara Lab. If he had a restraining order, there's no way his wife would have let him take her. The restraining order motion against him cited that he was aggressively stalking them and harassing them. So it just really doesn't add up whatsoever. I feel like these tapes completely contradict the story. The only tapes that made sense were the tape of the second artifact being fired, but we already knew that it brought down planes. We didn't have to see that. There was an email from Matthew to Sahara stating that it brings down planes. There was another videotape of the scientists standing outside the artifact, and there's a small boy with them because they're going to open it up and put him in there. I think it was pretty obvious that the first artifact was being used for child sacrifice, given the fact that when you first open it up, you see Timmy in there, and then you put Megan in there, so you can kind of imply they didn't really need to show that. And then the other tape was a child on the table, having convulsions, which is apparently the side effect after being brought back to life by this machine. So yeah, I just feel like the tapes added nothing. I would have much rather preferred if the tapes maybe had something to do more with Sahara itself, like showing the facility being built, or what they were actually trying to use the artifact for. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and I just feel like the tapes were kind of a waste of time. I mean, they were well done. It was interesting, and I liked the game, so I liked going back and finding them with my best friend who had to escort me through the entire game again. But they absolutely did not add anything of value in my opinion, and they don't fit with the original story. So I have no idea how the game creators are going to explain that sort of disparity. The fact that they show a videotape of Megan being killed, yet the information in the game earlier that was in there originally says that she was killed. She was found at her mother's home. It was a violent death, and she died from a laceration in her back. And also just the restraining order. Why would Matthew have asked for her school photo if she was there at the lab already? There was no evidence of Megan having been sick. So I kind of just feel like you can skip this patch. The videotapes add nothing to the game, and kind of just reiterate what we already knew about the artifacts, and the Megan story just convolutes it, messes it up. Not worth it in my opinion. I do want to do a second video, like I said, about just going over all the little tiny details in the game that I think are really interesting, much more interesting than the videotapes. But yeah, that's just my opinion. If you think you can make the story fit with the videotapes, the autopsy report, the restraining order, the emails, things like that, then go ahead, because I have tried to make it fit. It just does not make sense whatsoever. All these things can't interact together. And I'm actually wondering if they went back and they took out the autopsy report, they took out the restraining order. I'm really wondering. I don't know. I'll have to check. Anyways, okay guys, thanks for watching, and see you later.